And we were joking previously, like just texting back and forth. What happens if something like this happens during the season?
Exactly.
So a coach gets coronavirus. You're without your head coach.
Week 4.
Yeah. Say in September, one of these guys gets coronavirus. Then, like, does your whole coaching staff have to quarantine because they've been in meetings with the head coach? And then are you in a position where it'd be like a Jackie Moon thing where like Carson Wentz would then be the coach too? Like, would we get to that point? How's it work?
I mean, I'm guessing it would have to be something like that because, like, so other players that have been put on this COVID reserve, right? Matthew Stafford's been put on, Gardner Minshew's been put on, Lane Johnson, but it came out that Lane Johnson does have coronavirus, right? But Matthew Stafford and Gardner Minshew, we don't know that for sure. It has been said that they either have it or they've been exposed to it and they need to quarantine. So what that tells me in my head is, yes, if your coach gets it and it's week 4 and your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, they've all been in rooms together, putting the plan together, they've been exposed, right? So, and that goes vice versa. Like, what if your defensive coordinator gets it, but he's been in the rooms with the head coach? Does that mean the head coach may not have it, but he needs to quarantine? Can he quarantine up in the box? Like, what happens?
How do you handle it? Yeah, those all you do all week is sit in the film room and go over and have meetings. And you do defensive coordinator would meet with each group, like the secondary coach, cornerbacks coach, defensive line coach. They have one big meeting. They have a team meeting. Like, these guys are all going to be together. Like, if one contracts it, then pretty much everyone that's in that tiny film room is going to have it. And then all of a sudden, like, do you just walk away without a coaching staff? Do they postpone a game if there's no coaches? Now, do they run a charity where I get to call the play?
Can you imagine? I mean, there's not going to be anybody in the stands anyway. So if there's ever a season to do something like that, it's this season, right? It's 2020. Just text in your play. If you're the 47th texter in, your play is run.
Exactly. So season ticket holders, you can't go to the game, but you do get to call the plays.
You get to call one play.
You get one play, so don't screw it up.
What I would assume coaching staffs and organizations are smarter than me and you. Some maybe, some probably not. But
Cleveland, I don't know. I really don't.
Those guys, they're not doing anything right. But yeah, I mean, preemptively to this, I mean, they have to be thinking the same thing that we're talking about right now. So, do you think heading into meetings, they're not going to be in small film rooms together? Like, the head coach is going to be in his office and he's going to be on Zoom with the offensive coordinator in a different room watching film? Or are they going to be on StreamYard with the coach can play the video on and they're both sitting there in different rooms just for safety wise?
I like to think that they would do that and that the NFL has enough resources where you could be like, okay, you're in classroom B today. Yes. So go set up your teleprompter and coach is going to pop on the screen and make sure you're paying attention because he can see you. Basically like how you do like Zumba online with your gym instructor because you can't do your one-on-one fitness training without the gym open. It'd be just like that, except with NFL coaches. So but I assume that's what they would have to do.
That's like a substitute teacher thing all over again. Are you working as hard when it's not right there and tangible and right in front of you and can touch you?
Probably and another not. And another thing, if I know one thing about 55-year-old white guys, it's that they can't handle technology at all. Them having to do virtual workouts and virtual training is nearly impossible. They can barely open a laptop. We saw the GM of the Giants, when he was doing the draft, he just had a giant binder. That was all he had. He was set up at a desk. There's a white wall behind him and just a giant binder.
My setup for this podcast is better than Gelman's draft setup was. Hands down.
Yours is way more intricate than his was. So
I have headphones, I got a microphone, I got a computer and an iPad. I am late. I'm in 2020. He's in 1934.
Yeah, he looked like he was doing SAT prep, not drafting the future of the New York Giants to surround Daniel Jones.
And on top of not being able to handle technology, I mean, what do we always say about these coaches? They're football guys, right? And football guys got to be in the room. You know, we can't do it over Zoom. That's not football. It's
not football.
It's a team game. Everybody's got to be together, and
you got to sweat on each other.
Like that's what I picture with some of these coaches and some of these players, that they're just going to be like, we can't do football like this.
Yeah, they're just going to be like, it is what it is. We're just going to do it. But I think that's why we jokingly talked about an NFL bubble last week.
Yes.
And to an extent, like you're going to have to practice against one another. So you can't do everything virtual. Maybe coaches meeting sessions you could, but everyone's going to be on that practice field. We jokingly talked about an NFL bubble. I think you're getting close to that. If you didn't do an NFL bubble, you would be reliant on players basically quarantining themselves during the season, just going to practice, going to training, going to meetings, going home.
And that's it.
Nothing else. No extracurriculars. And that's how the MLB ran into problems, is because the Cardinals went out to the casino. The Marlins went out to the club.
Up in Atlanta.
Yep. And then that's how they ended up in a situation where everyone ended up getting it. You have games postponed. The NFL, I think you got to have like a penalty system in place for players. You basically have to tell them, look, you need to quarantine at home.
If you don't, you're losing X in your salary.
Yeah, you either get fined or suspended or something like that.
And Goodell will have no problem doing that. We know that for sure.
Nope. Yeah, absolutely. Him, you know how he is, like the overseer of everybody. Like he has no problem. Like no one ever wins an appeal against the NFL.
No, the NFL is the shield.
Exactly. So I think unless they're going with our Hawaii bubble idea, which I think was fantastic.
It is fantastic.
It is fantastic still, and they might have to do it. The next best option, and the one that's most realistic in their minds, my mind is still on Hawaii bubble, but I think you have to quarantine yourselves if you want to have a season.
So apparently this is what the Saints are going to be doing during training camp. I heard that today, that they're creating their own bubble, and the entire team, coaching staff, everybody is staying at a hotel. It's like 150 people, and you will be if you're not at practice in the facility, you're at the hotel. It's the whole team has that. I think that is the next best option, not only during training camp, but through the season.
Yeah.
Is it possible to keep these guys away from their families that long? Probably not. If that comes through, we're going to have a lot more guys opting out. I guarantee it. But realistically, for this to happen, if we can't bubble in Hawaii, which again we should, the best option, I think, would be these guys are quarantined. Like the Dallas Cowboys, they can quarantine at the Star in Frisco. Like they have a hotel there. They have any kind of restaurant you want, their practice facilities there. You just quarantine the team and the coaches there all season. You got to stay here. And then they take their private jet to Philly. They get on the bus. They go right to the stadium. They play. They get right on their buses and back on their private plane to their quarantine.
And go right back home. Yep.
I feel like that's probably the only way this season happens without a Hawaiian bubble.
I agree. It's the reason why college football is not going to happen is because the NFL has a sense of control where they can do everything that you just said, and they have the resources to do it. Like you brought up the Cowboys, get on the private jet. When you get there, there'll be a meal for you. You can shower if you need to, and you can get back on a cushy private jet and fly back to your bubble. And there's no reason for you to leave outside of that bubble. In college, you've got all these players who have to go to class and sit around other kids who are going to go out to bars. They're going to go out and party. They're going to intermingle. They're going to be in entanglements, as Jada Smith said.
They're going to be on Tinder.
And exactly. And then they're going to come back and give it to the players. But the NFL, they have the ability to eliminate that issue. Yes. You got to control the controllables. The NFL has the ability to do it. The MLB has shown they haven't even tried. College doesn't possess the ability. So if you're going to do it without a bubble, that's how you have to do it.
It's like it's almost like a mini bubble. Like each team has their own mini bubble, and the only time they leave the mini bubble is during games, and that's it. And then they immediately go back to their bubble.
And they go right back to it. Exactly. So you can still travel, but you're just traveling from mini bubble to mini bubble.
And, like we said, football guys and team sport, these guys are around each other so much. I mean, I bet coaches would love it because coaches want as much hands-on time, and they know where their players are at all times, always. So if they know their players are in this hotel or in this facility 24 hours a day and they can't leave, and literally all they can do is play video games, eat, lift, and play football, that's a coach's dream.
You're right. That's a coach's dream. The old adage is always that coaches hate the off season because it's the one time where they don't have control of their players. And every off season we hear about some dumbass who is charged with there's an armed robbery charge this year. Like, you're in the
Like, how
NFL
does that
making millions, and
what are
you're
you
robbing
doing?
someone with a gun. Like, what did you need from people that you could not possess? So
That's
if
what
they,
you like. The DUI situation with the NFL always blows my mind because the NFL literally has a service, which no questions asked. You call if you're drunk, they pick you up wherever you need to go and bring you home. Whenever, wherever, no questions asked.
the NFL has that,
Yes. So
so they have like a VIP Uber.
literally.
That's unreal.
So, but it's these guys' egos where they're like, no, I got to drive my Lambo no matter what. I've had 43 shots, but I'm good. Like,
Yeah,
no,
and then
just call the number.
and then you have weed in the car, and then it just snowballs every single time. It happens all the time.
And
I
not
will
even off season, right? With coaches not having their hands on their players. Think about during the postseason, right? With the Giants going down to Miami on the boat.
They went on a boat. Yeah,
Literally on their bye week going into the playoffs. And then they went to Green Bay where it was 4 degrees after they got off the boat. They're like, what the hell happened? And Odell Beckham's the ball's like a rock hit him in the hands, can't catch a thing, and they're out of the playoffs. Like,
he had one catch. They got smoked. They've never been back to the playoffs since. It's the most Giants thing I've ever heard.
We just went from the coach's dream to the coach's nightmare in 2 seconds.
Yeah, for the coaches, they probably love this idea. Like you said, it just eliminates all the other issues that they have to worry about. So that they would be fine with this idea, absolutely. I'm sure front offices would be as well. Players, not so much. But look, they're giving you an opt-out for a reason. It sucks that people have to use it, and a lot of guys who have used it for good reason.
Yes.
But this is you're kind of limited in your options. We're at the point where we've kicked the can down the road as far as we can go as a country, and this is it. These are our options. We're not having fans. This is not going to be normal, and for the most part, it's going to suck. But at least we'll have football.